Hello and welcome to a very special episode of First Geek 411. I'm your host, Cameron Franklin, and with me, as always, is my best man, Chris Nicolay. Chris, how you doing today?
I am well. Kind of a little frazzled, apparently.
Yeah, we're having a start of the stream, indeed. And we got a special episode talking about Strixhaven, the latest Magic the Gathering set. And before we get into all of that, listeners, as always, you can find us as One Geek 411 over on our social medias. You can join our Discord server, where you can hang out between shows. You can send us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Then you can check out the show notes on our website, onegeek411.com. Watch live on Twitch Monday nights, 6:45 Mountain Time, and part of the post-show chat. And then find the YouTube or find the videos over on YouTube where you can like, comment, ring the bell, all that kind of stuff. And then if you're a podcast listener, you can rate and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And then we are also on Redbubble, where you can find our merch store. Oh man, we're just having straight chaos today on stream.
It's a blast.
It's a blast.
We're set though. We're good.
We're set. We got there. So today, we are talking Strixhaven, School of Mages, the latest Magic the Gathering set that is similar but legally distinct from Harry Potter in every way. There's
5 classes, 5 houses. So
5 houses instead of 4.
And
then the acceptance letter is a owl letter instead of an owl that delivers your letter.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we play, Mage Tower instead of Quidditch.
Yeah.
Yep. Similar but legally distinct from. But Chris, you mentioned there are 5 colleges. Each are represented by enemy colors. And so for people that might not be super familiar with Magic, enemy colors just mean that if you put the colors out in their normal order, they are on opposite sides, so they do not touch. And so Chris, why don't you start us off and take us through some of those colleges?
You want me? So the 5 colleges, so we've got and their mascots.
Oh yeah, don't forget the mascot.
Yeah, but we'll talk about some of those. We'll talk about them now. So Lorehold is Boros.
Yep. So red, white.
Yeah. So for those who aren't fans of the guilds, now we have 5 new names for the enemy color sets.
Right. So this also means, I'm going to immediately get us sidetracked. So this also means if you want to be super hipster, you can use the Strixhaven colleges and then Dragons of Tarkir Dragon Lords instead of Ravnica guilds.
Oh, that's true.
Like we now have alternate names for
all of them.
For all of them. So
you're just anti-Ravnica.
Right.
But Lorehold's Boros, and their mascot is Spirits. And we should also say all 5 of the colleges each college or what? Sorry. Each
colleges,
college is established by a different Elder Dragon. So we get 5 new Elder Dragons.
Yep.
But Lorehold, Boros, Spirits, Primari is it? Yes.
Prismari.
Prismari. Yeah, sorry. Prismari are the elementals, which makes sense for it?
Mm-hmm.
Just straight
and
up.
So, and we should go through. Lorehold is archaeology is their theme.
Yes.
Prismari is the theater kids.
Theater kids. Next, then we have the Quandrix, which are the fractals. What's their shtick?
They're math, and that's math. Green blue.
Oh yeah, sorry, I should say the colors too. Green blue. Silver Quill are the Inklings. They're probably my favorite mascot. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and so that's white black, and they're like the debate club.
I thought they just run around and see who could cover the most color.
No, these ones are not an esport, Chris.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. This is not an
easy mistake.
And finally, we have the Golgari Witherbloom, and they are the pests.
Mm-hmm. And so they're like biology is basically what they are. And so And that's green black Golgari, like you said. And then in this set, we have, I guess, technically 2 new mechanics, and we have like one completely returning mechanic. Then we have a mechanic that's like getting a name that's been around. But this is set 3 of the modal double-faced cards. So these are cards that you can cast them from either side, but they don't flip back and forth. We had these with Zendikar Rising, and then we had them with Kaldheim, and then we had them with Strixhaven. Mark Rosewater said on their blog that they actually created the mechanic for Strixhaven, and then realized there was too much for one set. And so they ended up being able to use it for Zendikar Rising and Kaldheim out of that.
We should say a lot of things have gotten like released from Strixhaven early. Mm-hmm. So we do have we have Will and Rowan, mm-hmm. Who we originally saw in the Battle Bond set,
right?
And now we are actually seeing them on a plane.
Yeah, well, we had them on Throne or on Eldraine.
In Eldraine, because we had their father and stuff. But now we're getting a little more interaction with them now here. Yeah. Wait, were they originally designed for Eldraine? I mean, I know they were.
Yeah, they were designed for Eldraine, and
Released
then
Battle Bond. Okay.
Then added into Battle Bond as like a plant, so that we would know them.
It's Kazmina. We see again, and she's originally from this plane.
Maybe.
Or
this is her home. Yeah, this is her home.
Like
whether or not,
and whatnot. But we're seeing a lot. Like we've seen a lot of things come forward in prior sets mm-hmm. that were leading us into this set. Is ultimately what I'm just trying to say.
Yeah. And I'll say hot take. I think these are my least favorite modal double face cards. As the third implementation, I think this is my least favorite take.
I would say, like, I would agree. Like, I feel like a lot of, like, there's one cycle in this set that I really like, mm-hmm. in terms of modals. But most of the other iterations I mean, granted, I picked a favorite for like a lot of them, but yes, I would agree that the rest are meh. But at the same time, I feel like they are just like, well, we have 5 new classes that we have to fully introduce, and is just a way to get more cards without having to make more cards.
Right.
So they're like, just modal them. Just modal them.
It's like we'll fix it in post.
Yeah. We also get Learn and Lesson. As well as maybe I'm wrong. But Learn and Lesson is kind of it's a grab mechanic. Mm-hmm. So you can Learn allows you to grab a lesson card from out of the game and put it into your hand.
Yep. Or you can Rummage, which is discard a card, draw a card. But that's obviously not necessarily where you want to be.
They're in the Commander set that we'll talk about on a separate episode. There is another mechanic affiliated with the colleges, but it's more Commander specific. Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about that one because it's not actually in the standard set.
Right. Then next we have Magecraft, which is whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, do blank. So kind of similar to Prowess in that regard. Of course, Prowess always pumps up the creature, but like kind of that same idea. And so you'll get like whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, gain a life or draw a card or deal 1 damage to something, like those kinds of effects.
I like that it does include copy.
Mm-hmm.
And just because it's like, now you can literally just build a deck around copying and like you're going to get so much advantage out of it.
Yeah. I really like Magecraft as a mechanic. I say that and I don't think I have any Magecraft cards on my set or on my list, but
I mean, like in general, it's a cool mechanic, but the cards themselves, it wasn't like when we were looking at cards, they're just, oh, this is so good for a Magecraft card. It's like, okay, Magecraft is awesome and it's a good thing to see on cards, but it's not like list worthy, I guess.
Yeah. It's you don't list it because it has that. It's they have that and are cool cards, like that kind of thing.
Exactly.
That being said, I know you referenced it a little bit ago. In the commander set that's tied in to Strixhaven, there are some really cool Magecraft cards that definitely would have made my list. But
it's also a commander set, so.
But those are in the commander set, so well,
Which we love the commander sets, and
I have thoughts, but those are for another time. And Chris, what is our last mechanic?
Last mechanic is Ward, which is if it's on permanent cards, if that permanent would be the target of a spell or ability your opponents control, counter it unless they pay Ward whatever.
Yeah, blank. Yeah,
unless they pay blank. Yep, exactly. So I mean, it's this is the one we were talking about. It officially has a name, but usually it's counter target spell unless like it's usually on a counter spell. I'm not sure. Are there other cards from outside the set that had that ability on the permanent itself?
So there's stuff like Frost Titan from the OG Titan cycle that has basically Ward.
Right. Okay.
So there are cards that have had that idea before, and then there's stuff like Kira Great Glass Spinner, where it's like the first, and that's kind of like if the first one they counter or cast gets countered, then they have to do it again with another one to actually hit something. And so not quite Ward in that case, but a similar idea.
Right. Yeah. Where it's like counter the first target that, like, if it becomes target the first spell that targets it this turn. Right. But Ward is kind of cool that it's just on the body, and it has like alternate cost too. It's not just pay 2. It's like there's a black one if they have to pay 3 life or something like that.
Yeah, I really like that. I like it when Wizards designs mechanics like this that are just open at the beginning.
Yeah, because then you can modify the cost based on the color of the spell.
Right. Because I get it with some, like morph would be very difficult to do that with, but like it would be very interesting if you could morph at a different cost. But so like I like the idea of this just straight up out of the bat. They're introducing us to Ward, and it's mostly pay 2 mana, but there's also like all these other ones that we see in the set too, between the set and the commander decks. So like I do like that we get that mix. But I guess let's go ahead, get into our cards. Chris, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So just to get it out of the way, and because you guys kind of already saw it, for those who have been with us since the beginning, my first card is going to be Hall Monitor.
I've made my stance on puns well known.
And so Hall Monitor is a 1 red card. It just costs a single red. It's a 1/1 Lizard Shaman. So he's a monitor lizard.
Yep. This is true.
1/1 with haste. So I mean, get in there. And then it costs 1 and a red. Tap. Target creature can't block this turn. So kind of a fun little card. But
I won't be playing this card out of principle, but I do like this mechanic. The like a creature with haste that you can tap or do something to give another creature haste. I really like that.
Well, it doesn't give
those
haste,
style of cards.
But I mean, like, I know what you mean. But
can't block, yeah.
Yeah, can't block. But like, eventually, like, it still has a utility after it's done its job. So it's like, oh, turn 1, hit, ping you for 1. Oh, now you've got blockers. Well, that thing can't block it, so my other creature's coming at you. Boom.
Yeah. They're fun designs. Keep those. It's good to keep those creatures relevant. So, my next one, or I guess my first one, our next card, is Callous Blood Mage. Always got a shout out a cool vampire. So in Throne of Eldraine, we had the Charming Prince, who was the enter the battlefield, do this effect, choose one of these 3. This is kind of the mono black version of that style of card. So we have 2 in a black for a vampire warlock. We should also have said at the beginning, each of the colors gets one of the spellcaster types. So like black gets warlock, blue gets wizard, things like that.
Yeah. White gets cleric, red gets shaman,
green gets druid. And so it's cool that in a set that's all about the school of mages, it's not all just everyone's a wizard.
Right. And you'll see 4 of the other, well, maybe I can't remember what yours is. But there's a couple cards on our list that they're the modals, and you'll see the two different types.
So Callous Blood Mage, when it enters, choose one. You either create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain a life, or you draw a card and lose 1 life, or you exile target player's graveyard. So this is the style of like filler creature that I really like for EDH. Like it's just a solid card to have in your deck. Every time you reanimate this in a marine deck, or it comes back in Marchesa, or you blink it in any of the billions of blink decks, you kind of just get to grab that mode that is useful. And then it also has that great value of sometimes you just get to ping someone's graveyard and their graveyard's gone.
Rude.
Yeah. And so it's one of those that like you just get that as a third effect that is sometimes very useful. So that's how I like my graveyard hate.
Recurring?
Well, recurring and tacked on to a card that is already good.
Yeah.
Like I have it's one of the Eidolons from OG Theros that when you have Constellation, exile target player's graveyard. And this is going to just be an upgrade to that, because when I don't want to exile a graveyard, I can draw a card.
You can do something else. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely get that. So just as we were mentioning, for my next card, it is one of the modal cards. And so you can see. So blue is Wizard, but my next card is Uvilda, Dean of Perfection, and Nasari, Dean of Expression. So this is the Dean cycle, and this is my favorite expression of the modal cards in the set. I think, because it's 2 creatures for 1. With each kind of unique ability. But Uvilda, Dean of Perfection side is 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Jin Wizard. Her ability is you tap and you may exile an instant or sorcery card from your hand and put 3 hone counters on it. It gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a hone counter from it. And when the last hone counter is removed from this card, if it's exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less to cast this way. So it's kind of a suspend situation, but you still have to pay for it, and it's a May. So I mean, like if it's not useful at the time, I mean, you can just it continues to be, it just stays exiled permanently. Very kind of a blue thing again, but Uvilda. And then her counterpart in the Is It series is Nasari, Dean of Expression. He's 3 and 2 red for 4 Efreet Shaman. So I like that too.
Yeah, I'm a big Efreet fan.
And you know, getting those elemental types tacked on because they are the elementals. Just that play on. I like the lore of the set.
Yeah,
is my favorite thing. But his ability is at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though it were any mana of any color to cast those spells. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a 1/1 counter on Nasari, Dean of Expression. So Nasari is personally like my favorite of the 2.
Yeah, I hard agree.
I love that red effect of, can you guys exile the top of your decks? I want to see if I want to play anything. It's my favorite red thing for getting the advantage. It's a single turn. It's just that impulse, very red mechanic. And anytime I see a fun card that has it and possibly other options, and it gets more powerful, I like those things. So
yeah. And then for like the second part, it doesn't have to be a card exiled with Nasari,
right,
which is really cool too.
Anytime you cast something from exile, so that's your adventure cards,
right? There's so many things like that you can tie that into. That's your
squee,
your squee, your Atali, your not Atali, no, that is the one. Yeah, that's your Vance's blasting cannons, your like any of those style cards, Outpost Siege, any of those, like that's such a cool, like
it's the hideaway lands.
Yeah, there's so much that like, and I think that's a great card. I really like Nasari. I'm kind of sad it's on the other side of the other one, but that's a whole
But I
nother
mean, like at the
conversation.
same time, it's well, granted, yeah, because now you have to have that red blue
Yeah.
combination for it to be in your deck, which
yeah.
is okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my things of if like I had a consistent like in-person commander play group, I would ask like, can I just only play this for the red side in my red deck? Like, are y'all just okay with that? Like that kind of thing. And I'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to mine. But yeah, I think that Nisari is probably one of my favorite cards from the set.
But it's on my list.
It is on your list. And that's because the deans that I picked from my list are Valentine, Dean of the Vein, and Lisette, Dean of the Root. So this is the Witherbloom Deans. And so I'm just like accidentally hitting on graveyards with my first two picks. But Valentine is a single black mana for a legendary creature, Vampire Warlock, with Menace and Lifelink. And then when a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2. You may, if you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So again, you got your graveyard hate on your 1-drop, which is going to be great for historic. Because it hates on Cat Oven, it hates on a lot of those style decks. And then you also get the value of just every once in a while, you just get to make a pest, which is nice. And this is, as I was just saying, one of the things that I kind of dislike with how the colors worked out in this set is that because this is a black green card, I can't play it in my black decks, which is like the decks that I would like to play it in. Like I can't play it in either Edgar or Marchesa. Because that second side, because they don't have green. And so that second side is Lisette, Dean of the Root, who I think in her own right is a very cool card. Like I don't want to hate on like specifically that. It's just more of the color. But so she's 2 green for a legendary creature, human druid. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn. And again, I would love to play this in Hamza, but I can't because the other side is black. And so it's just one of those cards that I feel like shook out really weird for the decks that I have. That either of the monocolor sides would be really good, but because this is a green-black card, I can't play it in any of the decks that I want to play it in.
You know what Jesus says?
Sucks to suck. But yeah, overall, like, I mean, as you were saying earlier, I really like the Dean cycle. I like that where it's kind of the heads of the colleges together. You get to see both halves of what that college is about. I think that it's really cool. And my general complaint for the MDFCs for this set is that the cards don't feel connected, like outside of the Dean cycle. And so like that's one thing that I think that this does really well. But like with Kaldheim, and I mean even with Zendikar Rising, they were always lands, but like okay. But like Kaldheim did so good with the backside of all the cards feeling like it went with the front side. And then this one, we'll get into it more because I know I have no more modal cards on mine. I know you do, but like a lot of the second sides for me just like don't feel connected. And so like that kind of is why I'm super down on this mechanic outside of the Dean cycle.
Which I understand. And but like, and I picked the cards not necessarily because of that synergy between the two or like the combination of the two sides, but because both sides kind of have good effects. Yeah. More so than anything. But yeah, they're definitely not as connected as the Deans, you know.
What you got, Chris?
So I don't know. Where am I at? We're gonna just pick my kind of. So also in the cycles, there's a lot of X cost cards. And I really like the idea of just pouring money into this. And maybe I don't have it up yet. One moment. Uno momento, por favor.
While you're talking about that, we'll tease it a little bit more. There is a lot of the like like double X's or triple X's in cards, and then just do stuff a bunch. And I think that that's a really cool like theme. I don't know the right word, but I really like this card.
Yeah. So Crackle with Power is so it's XXX and then 2 red. This is the mythic red sorcery. But Crackle with Power deals 5 times X damage to each of up to X targets. So it's 5 damage to 1 target. It's 10 damage to 2 targets. It's 15 damage to 3 targets. As you get up there. So, but that's 11 costs for once you get up to 3, and gradually gets up there. I know the green one would be really good in because the green has those X modifiers a lot, and there's that legendary creature, the X modifier creature, which is bonkers. Would be like just X.
Oh, the Hydra one, Zaxara.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And things like that. But I just love this for kind of just, well, it's like red gets to that point where it's just draw. Okay. And so you top deck this mid-late game. It's just like, how I've got, and it's targets. So that's players as well. So in a commander game, late game, this is your top deck. Just pour your mana in, and y'all take 15.
Okay. Well, someone's dead.
Hopefully that's where you're at. But or at least it's gonna handle some threats. But yeah, it's something you're gonna be paying for. It's not an instant speed. So I mean, it's not great. I just like that it's like, by the way, it's 5 times the X cost. So I mean, it's not crazy expensive. It's it's just what it is.
Yeah. And then there is a handful, because there are so many X cards. There are a handful of like blue red make cards cheaper type things in this set. And then I wanted to find it.
Or spells cost. Yeah, there's a lot of modifiers like that.
And then there also is, still in standard and obviously historic too, there's Kaza Royal Chaser from Zendikar Rising, which makes you can tap it to make the next instant or sorcery spell you cast cost X less, where X is the number of wizards you control. So like, there's already a lot of like aggressive slanted wizards that you could very much slide this Crackle with Power in as the top end in a wizard's deck and have that as your finisher.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean,
like that.
This spell is definitely going in like my Niv Mizzet deck and stuff, just as like that big top end to draw into, do a ton of damage, and then also ping you and draw a card. Maybe.
But yeah, this definitely stacks up fast, and I think there's a lot that I mean, if you can get to that X as 3, like that's when you're starting to like, if you can get beyond that reasonably often in a deck, I think that this is a great inclusion. Because you're going to just, but then, I mean, even for X's 2, so you're dealing 10 damage to 2 targets. Like, that's a serious ping
also
at the end of a commander game.
Also, like, when we get toward the end of our list, when we talk about, there is a crazy card that you're going to see that you could dump a lot of mana in very quickly into a spell like this for nothing. But and I'll explain that when we get there. But
and to Fluffy says in chat, 14 mana, 20 damage, 4 targets, kills a commander game. Like, like if you're at the point where you have 14 mana to dump and like dealing 20 damage doesn't take a significant portion of the table out, like something's gone very wrong in that game. Like, stuff's happened.
It's like someone just gained a ton or hasn't been touched or something. But 26 mana, 40 damage, 8 target.
counts. Like,
Yep.
uh,
Sorry, I guess, sorry, let me look at this. And it is up to, so
yeah.
like
So you can, yeah.
fortunately, like the more you pay, it's not like you have to
Yeah.
have all those targets available.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean,
nice.
yeah, this definitely feels like there's gonna be some games where this is like the Aetherflux Reservoir of like, sure, I could just take you out of the game, but instead I'm gonna hit your creature for 50. Like that kind of thing. Like there definitely seems like it's gonna be that kind of like
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Just depends. Like it's a situational card, but I don't know. Like I want to resolve it. That's like when I see a card that like just has like that. Like I want to pour as much mana into this and see if it resolves.
Right.
Like sometimes that's my only goal in Commander. It's like I'm gonna draw this one card and I want to cast it. And that's all I'm looking forward to.
Yes, and channel is banned in Commander. To Fluffy asks, yes, that is not allowed. And so, as someone who accidentally got channeled in a Commander game because we didn't realize it was on the ban list, it is banned. So, but I guess let's get into my next card.
I had to just copy it too.
Or you just copy it. Like there you go, because it copies whatever X is.
Or you insult it beforehand.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you
there
do
you
it.
go. That's how you do, because insult automatically at 1. You know, so 5 cost spell, 5 damage is now 10 damage to a single creature for 8 mana total.
I like that. Warms your red mage heart. But yeah, so my next card, I had a very similar card on my Kaldheim list because I just really like this effect. And so it's not overly surprising that I would have another one, but that's Semester's End, 3 and a white for an instant. Exile any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of the next end step, return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, and an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. Great effect. I had Glorious Protector on my list from Kaldheim. I just like this style effect, especially for your more aggro inclined commander decks. Like just having that ability to protect your creatures from a board wipe, like is just great. Sometimes that's just where you need to be. You just need that extra turn. Also, like it does add a +1/+1 counter to them. So like there is that type of synergies as well. And so, yeah, I just really like this card. It's one of those that like will be not great a lot of the time, but it's going to have those games where it just completely saves you.
Yeah. Which, you know, the color set that this is going, Boros has a lot of protection spells in this set. Well, in general, white has some good protection in general and stuff. There's some cool things happening here.
Yeah. And with that, like one of the things I would talk about off stream is like, this is a removal heavy set. So if you're playing like limited or standard, like your stuff's gonna get blown up. And so cards like this as just a way of blanking a removal spell, like it's probably not necessarily where you want to be every time to just do a 1-for-1 trade like that. But when it means saving your big creature, like you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I really like this card too. And it would be on my set, but I saw it on yours. So so I let it happen. And white, this is something white really needs just because there's a little, like, it's just not the best mono color. But white, when it does things like this, like it protects.
Yeah. Really. You want to know the worst part about this card, Chris? What? Is I probably won't be able to get one before our next Great Commander Showdown.
It's probably for the best. How much is this card right now?
It's $139. I was just checking. So it would be within budget.
It's within budget. Darn it. But let's talk a little more about the white and also getting things blown up. My next card is the Selfless Glyph Weaver. Modal card into a sorcery. But so it's 2 and a white on the creature side for 2/3 human cleric. But it has exile Selfless Glyph Weaver. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. I love just putting the effects on the board. Like I still got this, guys.
Just look at it. Just look at it.
This is an option for me. Remember that. I love anything on a body that has an ability like this. So like I like Spore Frog for a fog, things like that. And so that's why I like this. Is it's my cards are on the table. You know what I can do. Your move. But if it is in your hand, you also have the option then to cast it for Deadly Vanity, which is 5 and 3 black. Not the cheapest.
Yeah, that is indeed a mana cost.
That is indeed a mana cost. An 8 cost board wipe. But it is, fortunately, it's a salvation situation too. So you choose a creature or planeswalker, then destroy all others and planeswalkers. What's cool is obviously which is something that they have been working on slowly and surely, is that planeswalkers or Super Friends decks are kind of inconvenient just because there's no direct planeswalker removal. But now, like, they have certain things, but now we have a straight up board wipe that includes all creatures and planeswalkers except for the one of your choosing.
Right. And this is really where you want, like, obviously it's 8 mana, so like it's a lot to get there. But like this is a great place for a board wipe as the person casting it, because you still get to keep your thing.
Yep.
So you reset everyone, but you keep your most valuable asset, and you get in a free attack. You keep your planeswalker that you can ultimate the next turn, like things like that. Like there's just a lot that you can do here to make sure that you're not falling behind, which is some of the biggest challenge when you're casting a board wipe, is that like if you pay, like even in Commander, like if I pay 4 mana for a board wipe, the other 3 players each get their next turn to cast something
before you get your before you,
and I'm still behind now. Like I've definitely had games like that playing Ojutai where I've just had to board wipe into board wipe, just because like stuff, it's 2 minutes, you have to play politics and stuff like that to try not to like get a huge attack against you the next turn, like that kind of thing.
It's a hard life.
Yeah, control's hard in Commander.
Yeah. You got 4 opponents when you're trying.
But yeah, I like this card. Again, these are 2 cards that I think could have seen print by themselves. I don't know why they're connected. I'm confused. Like, I would happily
the creature sorcery combo is I don't get it. Like the Call Time sets had that synergy of creature equipment and things like that, or but yeah, these combinations, I just like the effects of the cards, like having that on a single card, like as an option, kind of cool. It's like typically I'm probably gonna play the creature and have that protection up for something, but I guess typically if you're trying to protect your creatures, you're typically not trying to board wipe. So it makes sense. And sometimes, and if you don't have creatures to protect, you're gonna want to use the board wipe. So it kind of makes sense.
I think it's kind of the opposite ends of the effect. So like there's like that like synergy there, but
which I guess that does play with the enemy colors idea of the set, where they are playing like that the schools are like, and they are focusing on what makes the 2 colors different and giving those abilities to the 2 sides of the modality or modal cards. And so I mean it makes sense on point for what they're trying to do with the set, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess my only point with that is, why couldn't this have been 1 less mana and been its own card? Like stuff like that. Like it feels like some cards are just more expensive because they are on a modal double face card, which they should be if you have that flexibility. Like that is how it should work. But yeah, it just feels like these are cards that could have been by themselves and would have been really cool at 1 less mana. But here we are.
Yep.
Speaking of here we are, I don't know, that's a very bad segue. But my next card is Master Symmetrist. And so, Chris, one of the things that I love about Quandrix is just everything's force. And so this is kind of a prime example of that. So this creature is 2 green, so 4 mana value for a Rhino Druid. That's a 4/4. And then whenever it has reach, and then whenever a creature you control with power equal to its toughness attacks, it gains trample until end of turn.
So it's a
So
4-cost, 4/4 reach trampler.
yeah, that gives your other people one of my, and this kind of goes into just one of my favorite, like mechanics, not the right card, a right term, but I really like it when cards like make you care about the value of power versus toughness of the card, or combined value of the, like, I just like those types of effects.
Whereas
There's
like
a real
most things pick like CMC or
right.
or something. But I do like those ones, like even like the removal from what last set or whatever, destroy target creature if their power and toughness aren't equal.
Yeah,
like those types of things.
yeah. And like one of my favorite commander cards is Wild Pair, which is it's like 6 mana enchantment. But whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you search your library for a card with the same combined power and toughness. And so like it's just like a really interesting like deck building restriction. And I really like that this card kind of fits into that same mindset of like, oh, but this is good, but I only have one creature, like just in draft, that's like only have one other creature that my power equals my toughness. Oops, can't play it, like that kind of thing.
Or you just go for it.
Yeah, like I just feel like this is going to lead to like those really funny, like, especially as an uncommon. So like this is going to like lead to those really weird boards where it's like, well, I opened 3 master symmetrists, I guess I'm doing this, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I just love trample. No. Yeah, all the triple trample reach, got him. What do you got for us next?
My next card, let's go ahead and let's talk about my next commander. Cody, Vociferous Codex. I also like this as a 3-cost. 3-cost, 1/4 legendary artifact creature construct. You can't cast permanent spells.
Mm-hmm. I love this card. This is probably one of my favorite cards in this.
Yep, same. But it also has the ability to pay 4, tap it, add Wooburg. When you cast your next spell this turn, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an instant or sorcery card with lesser mana value. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put each other card exiled this way on the bottom of your library in random order. So good. It's just spell cascade.
Right.
For free.
I really like this card. And like, even like if you're not cascading into something
crazy,
like just the fact that this does ramp you, like this does let you get 5 mana on turn 4. Like,
yep,
it's kind of a fun way of doing a mana rock, where like they could have just had tap, add 1 mana of any color. Mm-hmm. But instead they did it in this way.
And it's also mana fixing for what you're trying to do, like trying to get those spells out and use its ability and stuff. Mm-hmm. I like the condition on it. So I just want to build a spells deck around this. Yep. Just all the crazy fun mm-hmm. Spells from each color, and just have fun with it. It's a fun card, mm-hmm. just in general.
Yeah. So my dream here with this card would be something like Joda Archmage Eternal that makes you can cast any spell for Wooburg instead of it paying its normal mana cost. So you like reanimate it, or you play Joda before you play Cody or something.
Yeah.
And then like now you're casting your ultimatums for Wooburg. Now you're doing like all this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh man, give me a janky combo and I'm all in.
Just getting fun stuff, and then getting so you cast a spell for Wooburg, and then you
then you cascade for 8 or whatever. I like it. This is for me, Cody is the card. And I know you talking about being your next commander. Cody's the commander I would build if I was asked like, who would you want to do? Like if we were doing like a new deck for Great Commander Showdown, mm-hmm. I would want to do Cody.
And it's mostly just because I personally love decks like that you are building around a very specific kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And so Cody gives you that extra kind of thing that you have to think about. You can't cast permanent spells, so no enchantments, mm-hmm. no creatures. So, or if you do include them, now you have to work around your commander. To, like, you have to think about that. It's like, I got to cast the creature, then get my commander out. How do I do that? It's also going to be like for the primary protections that we typically see, you know, your boots, you have to have those out before you get Cody out.
Yep. Yeah. It's really interesting. And I mean, I definitely think that this is one of those that you and I overlap in a lot of our deck building ideas of what we like. And I think that this card is a prime example of it.
I want a Cody v. Cody matchup.
Cody v. Cody, all non-creature or non
Cody
spells.
and Cody, two-headed giant.
Ooh,
pairing.
Got him. You have my attention. My next card is a great card in Cody. Although you would want to cast it first. This also goes with those X spell. This is the card I was thinking of that I just completely forgot was on my list, but I'm happy that it's there now. And so this is Maelstrom Muse. This is part of a weird cycle of it's one of each color mana and then a hybrid mana. So this is one generic, a blue, a red, and then a hybrid blue-red, which means you can pay it with either or. And so it's a Djinn wizard flying. When Maelstrom Muse attacks, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is Maelstrom Muse's power as this ability resolves. And then it's a 2/4. So obviously, like, you can get this pumped up more, then you can get a bigger discount on your spells, or you can kind of just accept that you get the 2 and kind of just go from there.
You either pay the 2 less, or you can hopefully just unfold a ton of pump spells.
And because, like, Chris, like, imagine, go on a journey with me. And again, I love janky combos. So you play this on 4. Turn 5, you have 5 mana. You spend one of those mana to, like, Titan Strength or whatever, +3/+1. So now you have 5 here. You attack. You're now 5 cheaper. That leaves you with 9 mana that you could crackle for 2.
Yep.
And so now you're hitting someone for 10 damage. Like, so, like, we're talking, like, again, this is not like peak spike, like, deck building, but this is fun.
Yeah.
I like where, like, when this works, it's going to be great.
Well, and it's also like janky combos are my favorite just because they're unassuming too. So you might actually get to resolve some stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good point too. Like, this asks that question, especially in Commander.
It's like, do I have to worry about this?
Yeah. It's like, is this a problem? Like, because it doesn't have to deal damage. It just has to attack. And so, like, there's definitely some weird, like threat assessment that goes on with this card, especially in terms of like, do you, like, how do you evaluate a card like this? And, like, on the board, how do you evaluate it? And so, super interesting. It's a card that I hope to see, like, across from me a lot at Commander tables.
It'll be fun. And I love Izzet. I don't know. No, Izzet, man.
Yeah. And again, I'll say here too, again, I said this with Witherbloom. I like the takes from the colleges a lot more than a lot of the guilds, where I like blue red, but I do not really like Izzet. But man, I like Prismari. Like, give me the theater, kids. Like, but what do you got for your next card, Chris?
My next card, also a very expensive spell, which unfortunately reducing by X does not help.
Yeah, this would not help. It was a little bit, but not much.
Not much. So my next card is an instant spell. It's called Harness Infinity. It is 7 cost. It is 1, 3 black, and 3 green. It is at instant speed, and it exchanges your hand and graveyard.
Yep. And this is also a cycle. There's a cycle of this, like, triple color pip of both colors, like.
And I just had to pick one. It's a really dumb mana cost, but its effect is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's something where you can keep that mana up since it's instant. You can do it at the end of turn, so you can actually do stuff with all the graveyard stuff you just pulled from back from the graveyard. This is definitely a card I'm considering throwing in. Nath, just because, you know,
Mhm.
I lose my elves a lot, and it'd just be nice to get them back. Or there's just a lot of stuff that ends up in the graveyard that I'd like again. And eventually, like, you know, it's a big card advantage when you start getting those larger graveyards.
Mhm. Yeah. And there's just a lot of value in those options, even if you do have to discard back down to 7. Like, this is a great top deck when you're just that this is your only card in hand. You get your 20 card graveyard back at instant speed. So you have all 20 cards for your next turn. Like, there's a lot of options.
Yep.
Um,
It's a
I think
it's a one-off because it does exile, but
yeah,
either way, it's just very interesting, kind of can really turn the tides with a, like, maybe, yeah, you're just holding off. Someone board wipes, it's like, okay. It's like, I had mana up, I cast this. I'm gonna get everything you just put back into my graveyard back to my hand, and I'm gonna start rebuilding right away. Good options.
And speaking of your opponent's board wiping, my next card is also great in this situation, and that's Rushed Rebirth.
Oh,
which
same
is
color set.
Well, what a coincidence. This is the opposite end of the mana cost spectrum, where this just costs black-green for an instant. Choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser mana value, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So there's a handful of things I really like about this card. First off, art's adorable. Second, I really like that you can target your opponent's creature and then kill it with another spell, and then you still get to search your library for something.
Or you see someone targeting that big creature.
Oh yeah.
And let then alone you instant response.
Yeah. So let alone that commander side of it, where it's like, that exact situation that you just described, where it's like, oh well, they're gonna board wipe. Well, I guess I'll just pick the highest CMC thing on the board and get something that's 1 CMC less than that. Like,
or you're playing or like better yet, you're just love chaos and they do targeted removal on someone's big creature. You're like, in response, and they're like, you're gonna save me? No, I'm just getting something for myself.
No, this is all about me.
I'm just greedy.
I really like this card, and it's if you're not running a lot of removal yourself, I think that this will be a very difficult card to pull off, or a lot of sacrifice. I guess is the other side of that, where you can cast this on a creature you control, sacrifice it to do your search. So, but like, this is a card that's going to be great in Marine because that it does run a lot of that sacrifice and stuff like that. So, even if 80% of the time you're going to be targeting an opponent's creature with this in response to removal, I do think you want to weigh that 20% to make sure you can use it on your own creature. But yeah, this is, again, I hope I get blown out by this. Like, it's just one of those cards, like, you got me.
It's like, it's a big turn for 2 mana, in the right situations, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would not be upset. Again, kind of like the last one, the Maelstrom Muse. Like, it's like, you got me. Like, this is going to be fun. Like, what do we got? Like, this is the type of magic I like losing to.
Where'd it go?
I believe in you, Chris.
I thought I did too.
Also, I gotta say, in general, the art for the set is pretty great. Because there's just so many like school tropes and things like that. Like, and on our previous, Varoth in chat says, I like losing to a combo deck that you've never seen before. It's like, okay, I'm gonna lose, but I can't wait to see how. Yes, exactly that. Like, that's very much where I'm at too. Like, hit me with your weird combo that like has 8 pieces and like, yep, you got me. Like,
yeah, especially the 8-piece ones. Like, I'm perfectly fine with those.
Yeah, I need you to bust out a diagram of how this works. Like, that's what I want to lose to. Like, I don't care about your Kiki twin or whatever. Like, but hit me with some jank combo.
All right. So my next card, I did pick one of the command cards. And so my next card is Lorehold Command. It is also an instant. It's 3 red and a white. Instant speed, choose to create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Or Lorehold Command deals 3 damage to any target, and then target player gains 3 life. And then sacrifice a permanent, draw 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
I just love all those options.
Yep. So I was pretty down on this when the commands, because the command cycle is like one of the first things revealed. And I was pretty down on this one, just for being 5 mana. But I think the longer we've gone, the more I'm high on this command. Like, this seems fun.
It does a lot. And again, that Boros color protection.
Mm-hmm.
Boros Charm. Well, someone just board wiped. 2-cost Boros Charm. Give me everything's indestructible. Thank you. Even at this 5-cost thing, you can do a couple other things. So yeah, I'm gonna protect everything. On top of that, sure, I'll lose one thing since you're board wiping, and I'm gonna draw 2 cards to get some of that card advantage, which is hard in red and white. But also you can do it. You can create the tokens, then they're gonna get +1/+0 haste and are indestructible. Or you're gonna target something, deal 3 damage, and then gain 3 life.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, I think one of the reasons that I've like warmed up to this card a lot is because it's really versatile if you're aggro or if you're playing control. Like, and I think, I think that that's something that like is a good command, is if it's not just like, cause I think that's one of the places that like I almost had Prismari command on mine. But I think that kind of suffers from being kind of like Culligan's command, where it's like there's pretty much always an objectively correct mode,
right,
for Culligan's command. Like, and I really like this one because you can create the thing, give it indestructible and haste and +1/+0 and attack in. You can remove something and draw 2 cards. Like, you can mix and match. Like, there's just so much like versatility. And like, even if you're in an aggro deck, there's going to be like insteps where you're just like, I'm going to make a 3/2, sack a land because I'm at 5 and draw 2 cards and then kill you on my next attack because everything in my deck has haste. Like, there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, and that's ultimately why I picked this, just because, in my opinion, from what I saw of the command cards, this is definitely the most versatile. Like, you have a very good, like, whatever situation you need this in, if you have it in your hand, you're going to do something with it. You're going to, in the right situation, it's a 5 mana, 8 to the face.
Yeah.
That's good. And then you still have 2 bodies. Like, you have bodies on the ground after doing that. You have, okay, I have a pretty good board. Someone's board wiping. I'm protecting indestructible. It's, it's okay. I mean, like, I have nothing better to do. Let's just do this trade. I'm going to destroy this little 3 dinker toughness thing, and I'm going to gain 3 life, or I'm going to do 3 to the face and gain 3 life. Whichever you end up doing, you just have options, and I like that. Whereas the others are in that situation where it's like, it's really great for this one effect.
Yeah.
1 or 2 effects.
I agree. We have someone going on in chat with people. Varoth says card advantage is hard in red and white. I miss Feather. Not that Feather was necessarily strong, but it was fun. And then the Fluffy says, you will remove target opponent from the game with Feather. It's a good time. It was in standard, at least. So I would like to remind everyone right now that Feather is a 3/4. And as long as you target something you control, you get that spell back. So Feather survives Lorehold's commands,
gets pumped, and is indestructible for the turn.
Right. And so
you get Lorehold command back.
Right. Like even if you do the modes of like deal 3 damage to Feather, gain 3 life, sack a permanent, draw 2 cards, you get Lorehold command back in that situation. So like, I'm just saying, like, we're all going to red white value town with this.
Yeah. And I'll admit, Feather is an awesome
Right.
Awesome card.
And I do think that this card is really cool because it has that Shades of Feather of its card advantage in a way that we haven't really seen in red white before.
Yes.
And then DeFluffy says making extra bodies repeatable with Feather is nice. She doesn't make a lot of friends on her own or of her own.
So she's making friends with spirits.
Yep. Oh man.
But yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's the most expensive command card, but it's just the most, it has so many good options just to play with.
And then the Fluffy asks in chat, and we need to talk about this art or people need to go look up this art. If you're a podcast listener, you need to go look it up. But Fluffy asks, is the statue in the background attacking? It could go either way.
I'm saying yes, just from what we've seen in the rest of the set.
Yeah. But I would also like to call everyone's attention to the scroll machine gun or like scroll Gatling gun that is in the art of this. And I want to remind everyone that this scroll is shooting information about archaeology. This isn't Azorius where they're using law magic. No, this is archaeology magic. And I just love that. Yeah. The chain fed book machine gun. Yes.
Why was this not an artifact in the set?
Oh my gosh. I need that as a legendary artifact equipment. I need that.
And then Veroth responds, the face that she is making using the scroll machine gun is the face that we would all make using the scroll machine gun.
Again, everyone needs to go look up this art because it's amazing. Oh man, it's so good. I just love this card so much. Again, this, I was probably most down on this one when they were revealed, but I've warmed up on it so much.
Yeah. Especially when you think of this particular color combo. It just makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. My next card also goes great in this hypothetical feather deck we're talking about. Because apparently I just accidentally pick all of the Abzan cards. But, so my next one is Show of Confidence. Which is a 1 and a white for an instant. When you cast the spell, copy it for each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. You may choose new copies or targets for the copy. Storm, no big deal. No way this will be a problem. And then put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn. So again, this is nothing bananas. This is no Lorehold command. But
you cast Lorehold command, you make your 2 creatures, get them +1/+0 indestructible. Show of Confidence next. Now you get 2 copies of Show of Confidence, both targeting those things.
Yeah. This is definitely one of those things that especially once you're casting that one more instant or sorcery that turn, this is starting to get really good, let alone the synergy with Feather where you then just get this back and cast it with all of your cards the next turn. And also, again, really cool art. This is, they're calling it out in chat too, but this is the, Varoth says, the art tells me I went to the wrong high school.
Don't worry. None of us received our letters.
Yeah. I love
still waiting for my letter. I know I'm not high school age anymore. I'm still waiting on that letter.
But see, this is college.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to remember, Strixhaven's college, not high school. So technically, we can all go at any time for further education. So
sign me up.
This is fun. Again, this is a card I anticipate getting blown out by. And I'm ready for it.
Just wait, how many instant sorcery spells have you cast this turn? Just storm. Again, it's just that kind of stormy mechanic, which is perfect. What is my next card? I have the alternate here.
And again, of the storm cards, I'll just say while you're grabbing that, this is the one I'm least upset to have cast against me. Like, if you're gonna storm for a bunch, then just put counters on a bunch of things. Sure, I'm all in.
Storm.
Like,
It's like just encounters. It's like it's just counters, guys.
Yeah. Again, it's like, okay, you stormed for 20, but then cast Show of Confidence, not Grape Shot. Like, I'm all in. Like,
we'll pick this another modal card, the colorless modal creature sorcery is, and just going back to, this is why I think that statue in the background is part of the battle, or is there, is because of the Wandering Archaic is a giant creature avatar. Well, actually there's a few, but 5 cost 4/4 creature avatar. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 2. Or they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Yeah.
I like this.
I do too. Mostly because it's like, possibly it's like, hey, you're paying that. Are you going to pay 2? You're ramping right now. Is okay if I do the same kind of situation. Or you just politic. It's like, you don't want to do that. Look, or like in situations where you and this other player are just trying to survive, you know, you get this out. Hey, cast this, whatever. Don't pay the 2. I'll copy it. I'm going to target this again. All in all, great card. Nothing super crazy, but
I'm going to also be honest. I did not know this wasn't legendary. I just assumed this was a legendary creature.
If only.
Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I've watched, I watch a lot of Magic content, and I'm going to be honest. I was really confused to why this wasn't making more people's like commander lists. And I just figured out that it wasn't legendary
just now.
And that's why, like, yeah,
pulling it
like,
yeah, I think it would be like, in terms of commander, this would be really good as a colorless commander. If you wanted to go that route. Yeah, because unfortunately, no color identity, but it's sorcery spell on the back end. Also, this kind of group huggy thing going on. Explore the vast lands for 3. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their library, reveals a land card and or an instant or sorcery card from among them, then puts the cards they revealed this way into their hand and the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. Each player then gains 3 life. Group hug.
Yep. It's a choice. And again, I thought this was really interesting in Commander because I thought you could cast this side from the command zone. Oops. My bad.
Recurring Explore the Vast Lands. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure you're like group hug, you're ramping everyone. But like, I legitimately, again, I thought this card was legendary until just now. Oops.
But now just picture the actual campus now. And there's just an actual army of these things around.
Right. Yeah, because it's not legendary. So there are several.
Yep.
Yeah. I think this is a cool card. I think this is the 3rd plane that we have colorless, like non-artifact like spells.
Yeah.
And so, because it's Zendikar, Tarkir, and then now Strixhaven. And so there's some other ones. There's the lessons and stuff like that. There's a handful of those that are colorless, but I really like that just kind of coming back to that idea, and that some knowledge is not tied to a specific mindset, but how you use it.
Yeah,
like that's how it's kind of been explained for Strixhaven.
And that's why I really like this card too, is because it's just straight up colorless. Not only can you include it in any deck, just kind of as a thing to do. Yeah, I actually think this is a great card to include in pretty most decks. Because why not?
Yeah. I like it. My next card, again, I accidentally picked all the Abzan cards. So like, so my next one is Plum the Forbidden. So this is your forbidden section of the library archetype or whatever, from Harry Potter and from all those school tropes. And so this is 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, copy the spell for each creature sacrificed this way. Draw a card, you lose 1 life. So I really like this. It's a great like way of cashing in against a board wipe, against any of those things of like, sure, I'm going to lose these anyway, but I might as well draw some cards at the same time. Yeah. And so it's a really fun aggro slant there. Obviously really good if you can get a Blood Artist or Zulaport Cutthroat or any of those types of cards in with this at the same time. Mayhem Devil, any of those kinds of things. Also, again, really cool art. I love the kind of the Extus mages. And so, again, I think it's really cool. And it's a cool take on Storm. Because like instead of being cast instant sorceries like we saw with the last one, this is sacrifice things,
which is very black.
Yeah, and it's very like forbidden magic-y. Like I just really like a lot of like how all that ties together with this card.
Yeah, it's not like a crazy effect or anything. But it has its place, and it's gonna be great. And whatever you need it, refill your hand off a board wipe, do whatever you need. Get all the advantage. And we are in our final 2. So let's talk Kazmina Endigma Sage.
Cool art too. Again, awesome art. I'm so happy that we have Kazmina back.
Yeah, seriously. And I just like this, especially for Traxxas Super Friends or
oh yes,
1 green and a blue for 2 loyalty on Planeswalker Kazmina. She has a static ability that each other Planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of Kazmina Endigma Sage. This is really good, paired with the only minus abilities on the
uncommon War
War of the Spark. Yes. Now you have a way outside of proliferating the counters on them to keep them up, keep them going, keep them alive. So good. And her abilities are ultimately like they're not crazy. They are but now that you have other things that are doing it, it's wonderful. +2 scry 1.
Yep.
Also giving all of your Planeswalker a +2 ability.
It was really good. Yeah.
Boom. -X, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1 +1/+1 counters on it. Yeah, nothing crazy, but potential. Get a big creature.
Yeah.
Yep.
You get your 6 mana, the Chandra that can't be countered, big Chandra from War of the Spark. Because like there's been I play that in one of my decks in Historic, and there are times where it's up to like 11 or 12 loyalty, and it's like, I mean, I can give them another emblem, but like at the same time, if I could -8 that and get an 8/8, that would be pretty cool too.
Exactly. So you're gonna just minus it to now, or even for this last ability, -8. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with this Planeswalker. Exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost.
Yeah. If only they just printed a cycle of 3 color costed like giant spells. That sure would have been nice.
What?
Man, if only the ultimatums were still in every format. Like that makes me so excited.
That's if you get that ult off, and like depends on the Planeswalker and obviously, but that's a I want to cast something that I don't have in my hand, and you know what you need, you go get it right now, and it's free.
Yep.
Just for sharing a color identity. Or sorry, it just has to share a color.
Right.
So just one of the colors has to match. Yeah. Which is even better.
Yeah. And I think that's part of why like the ultimatums are going to be so good or so fun. Maybe not good, but so fun in a Kazmina deck is that like as long as you have Kazmina and a red or white creature or red or white Planeswalker, you can basically hit every ultimatum.
Yeah.
So like, is that the best thing to be doing? Probably not, but it's gonna be fun. Like,
Yeah.
And so I'm just super into that value.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. It's just a good modifier, good support in those in Planeswalker decks. Good time was had by me.
Yes. And then I do like the flavor of her passive, almost as the inverse of Nicol Bolas Dragon God, where he takes all the abilities for himself. Kazmina, who's from the school plane, gives that knowledge to others.
Yeah.
And so I just really like that twist of this being the opposite of that Bolas passive from War of the Spark. Like, it's a cool card. My next card is a card you could play in your Kazmina deck, but probably would not want to get with the ultimate. And that's Ecological Appreciation. For X, then 2 and a green. Search your library and graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different names that each have a mana value X or less, and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Shuffle the chosen cards into your library and put the rest onto the battlefield. Exile Ecological Appreciation. As Deanna says, pretty lights. There's a cool squirrel thing going on. Yeah. So this is a fun one.
Wait, I'm not even going to mention the gator?
Oh, there's a fun gator. There's a weird deer thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a frog. Like, yeah, this is again, great art. I wish that this didn't have to be different names, so I could just like show my opponent 4 of the same creature, but I understand why you could. Okay, fine. Yeah, you got me. We can't do that. But like,
I mean, in Commander anyway, right?
Right. But I like the ability that like you can basically in Commander get 4 similar effects and be like, which one of these do you want me to have? Or stuff like that. And then so there's definitely some fun value to be had there. Like, imagine getting 3 like Muldrifter style creatures that just draw cards, or Chupacabras that they enter and destroy things. Like, there's so many ways of just getting like similar effects. Or you get your
let me show you 4 Elf Lords.
Right. Yeah. You get your yeah, just get those, like, because you're like, oh, I spent 2 mana and I got 4 Elf Lords. Like, which 2 do you want me to have? Like, or I spent 4 for X. It's like 7 mana total. But like there's just like there's some fun stuff there. Like, or 5 mana total. Yeah, it's great. I'm really happy. I don't know if I'm putting this necessarily straight into any of my decks. It might go in Marine just because that deck ramps a lot already. And it would definitely not have trouble having a lot of creatures to search for. But there's some definitely fun synergies to be had with this.
Yeah, definitely throwing it in my elf in Nath, just because it's great. Now I can like it definitely like drawing this just makes it a lot more consistent. Mm-hmm. Get some crazy elf shenanigans going.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that brings us to our final cards. So
we each got an Elder Dragon.
We did. And I picked this because Izzet needs 2 Elder Dragons in its color set. But I did pick, and they're great. I picked Galazeth Prismari. And as I mentioned, this is with with Crackle with Power. This is the commander that he goes with. Galazeth Prismari costs 2, a blue and a red for a 3/4 Elder Dragon flyer. But when Galazeth Prismari enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Mm-hmm. Artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells.
Yep.
So, treasure token now taps and it stays on field for as long as you need it. But when the time comes and you have treasure tokens everywhere, tap and sack, that's 2 mana. Get rid of them, cast Crackle with Power.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep. I really like that. Like, I definitely think there's some some fun to be had there. And yeah, this is, I've heard some people say online that this is fixed Urza, Lord High Artificer, where this, instead of just being a completely busted card, like this is kind of the fair version of that effect, which I think is great. Like we did not need another Urza. We did not need the first Urza, but that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I really like Galazeth. Yeah, for the exact kind of interactions that you're talking about. Like there's so many ways to get treasures. There's I think it's Magda from Kaldheim, that whenever like a dwarf becomes tapped, you create a treasure.
Yeah.
And then like you can sacrifice treasure to search your library for an equipment or a dragon.
And put it on the battlefield. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm liking a lot of that.
This just was my favorite Elder Dragon. Like, yeah, it's not the best effect, but dang, if you're making treasures, if you're doing some stuff, just getting mana in is hard. And this now, you know, turn 4 or whatever, you get Galazeth out, you just ramp 2, like at least for a turn, but you're guaranteed wrapping 1. You start creating those tokens. Now you get to keep them and then use them as you need to. You don't need to just sack them because you need mana right away. You have options, and I love that. And I definitely may swap Niv Mizzet out for like the primary commander card, or at least include him. But he's a lot easier to cast than Niv Mizzet.
Right. I think that's the big challenge with Niv Mizzet, is that the triple blue, triple red is just
so hard. It takes forever because you have the fix, you got to do everything, and it's tough. So I mean, swapping it out and just including all the Niv Mizzets in the deck now maybe might be my next option. We'll see.
The Fluffy says Sahili servos tap for mana now too. Like like your War of the Spark Sahili, like they are summoning sick. Good call out, Fluffy. But like just the fact that like now whenever you cast, it's a non-creature spell for War of the Spark Sahili, right? So you cast your non-creature spell, like your instants or sorceries, get your servo, and then next turn you can use that servo to then cast another instant or sorcery. That's fun value.
Yep.
I like it.
Artifacts,
Yep.
And I like all of that, just also useful artifacts. Tap your equipment while they're attached to creatures.
Oh yeah, yes, please. Yeah, I love stuff like that.
It's like things that people aren't thinking of. It's like, well, the creature's tapped. My equipment's technically not. I can tap that equipment to use it and generate mana too.
Yeah.
Like yes. Yeah. And it's things people are going to completely overlook. It's like, oh, you're tapped out? Sure. All my lands are tapped if that's what you mean.
Yeah. Yes. This kind of gets into the commander of like, you have to ask very specific questions of that's like, how much mana can you make? Like that kind of thing. How many untapped artifacts? It's not, I really like cards that make you have to think like that.
It's like where you just now really have to pay attention to have their board state, kind of like, okay. And like, you have to think because if you miss that, it's like counter. How are you? I have boots out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what?
Yeah. Those
are generating mana. How? Galazeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom.
Love it. So before I get into my Elder Dragon, I gotta say I was hyped that we were getting the other half of this cycle. To no surprise of people that have been part of the channel for a while, I mentioned it. Dragon Lord Ojutai is one of my favorite dragons ever printed. I was really hyped to see what the non-red dragons were going to be in this set, because that's one of the reasons I really liked Dragons of Tarkir. And I guess Fate Reforged for that same extent. But I ended up having to go with a red dragon, and the other red dragon. So I'm going with Villamachus Lorehold for 5 red-white. Got a chunker. Like, so 7 cost, legendary creature, Elder Dragon, flying, vigilance, haste, 5/5. So we got some stats. And then when Villamachus Lorehold attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Villamachus Lorehold's power from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So when I first got into like playing competitive Magic, Chandra Pyromancer was in Standard, and I played a lot of that. And her ultimate was very similar to this ability. And so this is another one of those like effects that we kind of I talked about it a little bit earlier on with Master Symmetrist, but this is just one of those style effects that I really like because it has that place in my heart. And then even like Maelstrom Muse, like this effect is on attack. So it doesn't have to deal damage. So you could pump this up with the trigger. Like there's a lot that you can do. And like base power 5, so 5 or less, but also you can raise its power through a number of ways and then hit bigger spells. Like that wouldn't work with this as your commander, but like I hate that I keep going back to them, but this is only 2 powers short of casting an ultimatum for free.
Right.
Yeah, like again,
all you need is a pump spell.
Right, yeah, or an equipment that gives it +2+. Like you're not far away from casting ultimatums with this. Granted, it's probably overkill, but I know I've already seen some like standard and historic decks floating around that are using Luca and creature tokens. Not this set's Luca, but the Ikoria Luca to basically you just turn a token and then you only have Lorehold as your creature. And so you get Lorehold, has flying, vigilance, haste, attack right away, get a big spell. Like that's the kind of Magic I like.
Right. And you got to remember, also cast Lorehold's command.
Yes, perfect. A good call out. I did not think of that. But yes, Lorehold's command is conveniently 5 CMC. So
right away. Yeah. So you pay 7, swing in for 5, cast Lorehold's command, big turn.
Yeah. It's now flying, vigilance, haste, +1/+0, indestructible, double haste, and then lightning helix something. Like, yes, I like where your head's at, Chris. Now you're thinking with portals.
Flavor.
Yeah, that is awesome value. So that brings us to the end of our Strixhaven top 10 listeners in chat over on YouTube or podcast. We want to know, what are your favorite Strixhaven cards? Let us know. And you can do that either in the comment sections in chat, over in the Discord, all those places. Next week, we'll be back with another episode. And until then, everyone, you can find us as OneGeek411 on our social media. Join that Discord. Shoot us an email at 1stgeek411@gmail.com. Check out Redbubble for our merch. And then you can watch live on our Twitch, 6:45 Mountain Time, and find our videos over on YouTube. And then, of course, you can rate and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. You can check out our show notes on our website, onegeek411.com. And then you can reach us at our personal social medias. Mine's Humar Whittle.
I'm not so foreign.
And until next time, it's been a great week.
Wash your hands.